Tonight on The Recall, my guest and I break down the action of the Grizzlies Game of the Week against Mayhem Academy. I get crafty in overtime with our Danish DPS Dimitri, and much more. Hi everyone, welcome to week 2 of The Recall. My name is Akuiko and I will be bringing you guys some action tonight about the Grizzlies game on Sunday. Before we do that, I am going to start by introducing my lovely guests around the table, starting with Dimi, a commentator for the Montreal Overwatch League, as well as the guy who runs Concordia Esports. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
And our returning awesomeness of Tisane. Thank you so much for coming. She is the analyst here on the show.
Hello.
So guys, we're not going to waste too much time here because there's a lot of things to cover. As you know, this show is not spoiler free. This game was a 3-2, sorry, for Mayhem Academy. So we got 5 maps to cover tonight. Just before we do that, we're just going to look at the scoreboard very quickly for the last 2 weeks of play. So we see here Gladiators Legion really sitting pretty at the top with their 2-0 record. Sadly, the Grizzlies are in last. They are 0-2 at the moment. We'll see what they can do about that. But for now, we are just going to start by talking a little bit more about Mayhem Academy, who was their opposition for Sunday nights. So as you can see here, we have Mikey A and ZZA as DPS in the roster, Krems and Moopy as flex and tank, Moore and Paintbrush as supports. So Mayhem Academy were defeated in week 1, but it was against the Gladiator Legion, right? So it was something to be kind of expected, knowing how strong this roster is. We are going to get into the first map right away because there's a lot of things to cover, as I said earlier. Our first map here was Ilios. So after seeing some funny plays on both ends, let's say, we started on Well and Lighthouse, and then we were tied 1-1. We then went into Ruins for the decider. But just before we get to talking about about Ruins, Dimi, can you give me a bit of thoughts about the first 2 maps?
Yeah, the first 2 maps were interesting, to say the least. There's a lot of mistakes on both sides. Mikey A killed himself falling into the pit. Sombra ults whiffed. D.Va's not really doing their job correctly. Actually, not even picking D.Va for the most part. But it was a really interesting first 2 maps. And really the decider was Ruins, which was the final map, which we got in the series, which we saw a lot of more interesting styles come out from both teams, more interesting characters, the Widow notably from Graceful and on the other side too. So,
I mean, speaking of that Widow, so the first thing that we wanted to touch on here for Ruins, as we said, the decider map for that that series here, we saw more triple DPS comp, right, Lisa?
Yes.
It's something that we were a little bit iffy on last week when we saw it, but this week it worked very well. Can you tell me, in your opinion, what made it work so well this week?
Yeah, sure. The difference between this week and last week is probably the comps. The comps are obviously different. This time we can see the Widow instead of a Sombra. And also this time they covered a lot more ground when attacking that point on Ilios compared to the third point on Sanctum Nepal. So here we can see the Widow. The thing that actually made this work was, first of all, out damaging the heals from the other team, which we can talk about right after. And also making the right pick at the right moment. We can see during the game that the Widowmaker picked the Lucio a few times, which really stopped the attack on the point. So that really helped the triple DPS run properly, and they covered a lot of ground and angles with the use of that Widow. So.
Also, speaking of the Widow, we had Mimes here on the desk last week who was telling us that Graceful used to be a DPS player, so he seems to be very comfortable on the Widow, maybe a little bit more than what we saw last week from Spirit, knowing that he hasn't played that character too much.
Exactly.
But also you talked about the Lucio being picked off a lot. This is something Dimi focused a lot on when we were talking about the game, because we went with Mayhem went with the solo healer Lucio. What are your thoughts on that?
solo heal Lucio is super hard to execute, and usually you'd want to pair that with a Sombra. You get the advantage on the point. You take the point, and hopefully you cap those healing pads, you hack them, you kind of sustain your team over time with those healing pads. But unfortunately, Moore just kept getting picked over and over, and his EMPs didn't do much. Point in case this replay right here, where he just gets obliterated instantly, and they lose the fight and lose the point because of that. But after that, he just kept getting picked over and over. The Lucio healing wasn't enough, and they kept getting out-sustained in these fights. And these long, elongated fights where Widow's picking off your healers, you're not going to do much over time, so...
Yeah, and I mean, really quickly here, just before we get into our second map, if you were to change one pick on Mayhem's side here, what would you?
I probably would have picked a Zenyatta, or just at least something that can try and enable your team more to survive the long haul fights and actually try and get to that Widow in the end, because we saw some dive, but it didn't really go the way they wanted to, so...
Well, so that first map here was taken by the Grizzlies, so they got their first point of the day with that. The second map was Numbani. A bit of surprises here because this map was lost by the Grizzlies this week, and last week it was their best map by far. They dominated on Numbani, so it was very... interesting to see the way that they played.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about the No Diva. We heard ZP talk about it yesterday, the No Diva team. Also knowing that ZZA is a very, very strong Pharah player, you really need to have that Diva on your team. So, Demi, can you tell me how much you think of Grizzlies' loss can be attributed to their comps and the No Diva?
A lot of the compositions the Grizzlies played were really one-dimensional, especially on the attack on the first point. They ran this sort of Orisa comp where they just stood up top, and if you know what they're going to do, it's really hard to counter it. So we saw Winston's go up there, and grenades really negating them. And then their compositions on defense weren't much better either. They ran they played triple defense and triple DPS actually, and really kind of just gave the point over to the Mayhem side. So unfortunately, it just really was really one-sided, this map, until the end where it kind of stabilized, but until that point, it was really one-sided.
I mean, because as I said earlier too, this map was really, really good earlier last week for the Grizzlies. I was wondering here, Isa, if you can tell me a little bit more about that from what we saw of those plays on Sunday. What do you think threw them off? Was it ZZA's Pharah? Was it because they played differently? They didn't have the same comp as before.
First of all, there's the first defense point, the A point. Well, the Grizzly, they decided to go with a triple DPS on defense, and that really didn't work because they were almost non-existent on the point to fight it when the Pharah arrived, and she just picked off everyone one by one, and that really fell apart for the Grizzlies, and it didn't work. And comparing the defense of the Mayhem to LNL's, we can see that the Mayhem played the aggressive defense compared to LNL, who were more passive, which we talked about last week. So.
Also, we saw a little bit, I'm just curious to ask about that. On the end here, we saw the stall that didn't really work for the Grizzlies. We saw the Doomfist coming out. Demi, maybe what's your thoughts on, I know you like Doomfist.
I love Doomfist.
So what are your thoughts on breaking out a Doomfist for trying to stall on the payload there?
Doomfist really is, you try and get to the point as quick as possible. He has 2 gap closers, so you get to that point. Your ult charges really fast, so you kind of try and survive. But unfortunately, Doomfist went in and died twice, which is what Doomfist does in the current meta. He just goes in and gets obliterated instantly. So it didn't really help, and maybe a Tracer or something, or a Diva, or trying to get triple tanks onto that and just sustain your team long enough to get back to the fight would have worked. But unfortunately, they lost the point, and they moved on to Lunar.
I mean, and what about maybe Isa? What about picking a Mei? Right, Mei has been played by other people. Do you think it's something that could be done for the Grizzlies to hold on the point at the end?
Well, on that point, it's more complicated because unlike Anubis, where she is used a lot to stall the second point, there's a lot of open space where she can still easily get picked off, and that's the difference, I think. And the fact that I think it's part of bad luck, the fact that they didn't have any support helping out the tanks and the Doomfist trying to contest that point.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that. We're going to get into our favorite map, Horizon. We're in Horizon right now, but we won't be spending too much time on Horizon. I mean, talking about the Horizon plays. So this map we talked about it a lot last week.
Yes,
It
we
wasn't
did.
the greatest. It wasn't the greatest of maps. So, I mean, this week wasn't any prettier, much like last week. The win here was picked up by Mayhem Academy. I mean,
Pretty decisively.
decisively, and also, I mean, it needs to be said that it's the Grizzlies that picked this map. I mean, Demi, I don't know if you watched last week's games, but in your mind, would you have done anything differently, or maybe picked Hanamura, knowing that's the second option?
Yeah, it's a really tough choice because both of these maps aren't really your ideal maps that you want to play in a best of series. Hanamura, not very fun. Lunar Colony, not very fun either. But there's comps that you could break out. We saw their attack being kind of lacking, and sometimes you could play wacky comps that actually work on Lunar Colony because that sustained fight at the first point is so important in getting the positioning. So there's some Ryu Jae-hong plays with Moira, which we've seen it to be really effective healing those frontliners and healing them throughout that push. So as we see now, a quick clip from Jae-hong just healing that diva, and your ult charge is so fast on Moira that by the time you get that ult and get that fight, you just deal so much damage, and it's really hard to counter. So maybe that's a possibility going forward for them.
So going full tank Amora.
Maybe
So-
maybe even 2 DPS, 2 tanks again, but a Moira would be nice, a Lucio would be nice, just to get onto that point, get that initial push onto the point, which it seems that they're lacking right now.
Okay, and is this something that can be easily done, considering you just showed us Ryu Jae-hong, who's like one of the best players in the world?
It takes practice like anything in pro esports. It takes practice, but I'm sure if you just set your work ethic to make it work on that map, it's doable.
Awesome. Right, so we're now going to get into the fourth map of Sunday, which was Junkertown. This one was a win picked up by the Grizzlies. So we saw some comfort picks here. We saw Spirit getting back on the Genji. We also saw Zapri playing Widow. Isa, I want you to just tell me in general, what are your thoughts on picking comfort versus trying to pick meta like last week when they were forcing the Sombra?
Well, what we can see is that they really feel more comfortable, and it allows them to really be more aggressive when they need to and when they want to. Also, for Junkertown, it's really convenient that their comfort picks are kind of meta, but still, the Spirit on the Widow was Spirit on the Widow versus Zapri on the Widow, we really saw the difference between the two because Zapri really went in for the kills, and towards the third point, he was really being aggressive, and it paid off because we can feel the confidence he has while playing Widow, and that's combined with a Spirit on the Genji also playing in a really confident manner, and it really helped the team because they initiated a lot of fights, and they also had great picks, which really helped them almost take the point.
We're going to see just now, right? We're going to see Spirit doing some great work here on Genji.
Yeah, and with Zapri really helping getting those picks and really securing the wins.
Yeah, right. I mean, especially you can see the amount of hours played here on the Widowmaker for Zapri. Another thing that we believe kind of helped also in that map is the fact that Mayhem kept doing a lot of critical mistakes. You pointed out the Bastion mistake first.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through what we're going to see now?
So really with Bastion, what you try and do with Orisa is you try and set him up on top of the card and just pretty much rinse everything that comes near you, but unfortunately he sets up towards the right side, and he's really unprotected from his healers, and they only have one. They only have Mercy, so if he's not getting a Mercy heal, he's getting his own heal, and if he's doing his own heal, he's not doing damage, and he just gets obliterated, and they end up losing the fight here, and continuously they keep losing fights over and over, and actually keep that Bastion until he gets ult, and really doesn't get much out of it, so maybe a bit tunneling too much on that Bastion pick, and kind of should have moved forward.
And as we saw, that was just easy pickings for Spirit, right? A Bastion just being alone, and I mean, you come in with the deflect, and you get a very easy kill. Another thing that we saw, though, that was maybe a bit unfortunate, Dimi, is the fact that Mikey was really doing a lot of work on the Tracer. It didn't seem to be enough to get them the win. Would you say that it would have been better to get Mikey on something else, or him being the one that really was shining?
No, it was really, Mikey this entire series was one of the shining stars for his team. We saw it on Ilias, we saw it on Numbani. He really went in, got the picks they needed, killed the supports, dropped the tank super low, got the pulse bombs on the right targets, and then his play kind of was outshined by the fact that his team couldn't do much to support him throughout this series, which is kind of unfortunate. But moving into Oasis, they did show what they were made of. So
Yeah, exactly. Do you think, Kiza, that Zapri would be able to take Mikey in a 1v1 fight?
I mean, we saw Mikey.
Yeah, we saw Mikey pretty much win that 1v1 on Horizon.
All right, guys. So that's gonna cover it for us for the map 4 here of Junkertown, which was, as I said, a Grizzly win. Our 5th map, because we did get a 5th map this week, which was really cool, was Oasis. So there's no choices here. The 5th map decider is always going to be on Oasis. I feel like the Grizzlies really like to make us stress. Again, it was 1-1, and we were getting to that last map on City Central. So I'm just going to go at this like that. Is that I want some stats on those Pharahs.
So the highlight of that map was really the Pharahs, like you said. And what we can see is that Spirit's Pharah made more final, hit more final blows than Zaz.
Yeah.
But the difference here is that Zaz charges his ult much more quickly, and he was really much more efficient using that ult. He made the picks at the right moment, and that really was decisive for the win, for securing them that win at the end. So that really made the difference. And another point that really changed the pace of the game is that the divas are supposed to be countering the Pharahs, and that's another point I think Dimi could tell us about too.
Well, it was kind of the theme the entire series, really. The Grizzlies' reluctance to pick D.Va, pretty much pick anything besides D.Va, like Roadhog, Widow, and everything. But we see D.Va being such an instrumental pick. It's just disrupting this Pharah on the screen there. The bomb coming out, Pharah has to move away, and then just D.Va getting in your face really sucks this Pharah, because you have to back off, you have to reposition. You can't be where you want to be. So moving forward, the Grizzlies kind of need to embrace the god that is D.Va and just kind of embrace the D.Va master race and really take that forward and use it to their advantage, because they played it really well before. So
if we could sum up these games, I would say pick D.Va.
Pick D.Va, number 1.
Awesome. So pick D.Va. As Dimi, you heard it at first. D.Va Master Race, just embrace it. That's going to be it for the recap for this week. We are now going to go into overtime with Zapri. So if you watched last week's overtime, I went in overtime with Spirits, and I lost, sadly. So every single week, I will be meeting a player of the team, and we are going to do an activity, and then we're counting points. So far, I'm 0-1. I went in with Zapri this week, and there's also a giveaway, guys. So this week, there are 2 Steam cards of $20 each, so $40 in total that you can win. It's the same thing as last week, so I'm going to ask you guys 2 questions, and you have to answer in chat. So as you can see at the bottom here, you have to do !raffle space with your answer, and it's going to buy you an entry for the giveaway. So the 2 questions that I have here are, 1, what hero is Nikolai known for? Nikolai is Zapri. And the second question is, what was the first word that Nikolai picked in the game that we played? So we're just going to cue that up right now and see you guys right after. Hi everyone, I'm Akuiko, and today we are going into overtime with Zapri. Now, if you watched last week's episode, you saw that Spirit scored 1 point for the Grizzlies. So now I'm going to try and get my revenge this week. Of course, Zapri does not know what we got in store for him in terms of the challenge that we were going to be doing. But while we wait for him to get here, let's just get a little bit more background information on him. Nikolai Moyes, more commonly known as Zapri, is a hitscan DPS player best known for his tracer plays. He grew up in Denmark and recently moved to Montreal to join the Grizzlies. He's been playing Overwatch since beta and had 2 accounts in the top 30 on the EU ladder in Season 8. Alright, so I have Nikolai here with me. We are ready to do our challenge. So as you can see, I have some paper, I have a bowl with some words, and I have some pens here. Do you think you know what we're going to be doing?
Drawing properly?
Yeah, but there's a twist. We are gonna be drawing blindfolded.
Okay.
Are you good at drawing?
No, not at all. I'm very bad at drawing.
So we are both going to draw, and then you have 30 seconds to draw it. And then I have to guess what you drew. I have 2 tries. If you get it on first try, you got 2 points. If you get it on second try, you have 1 point. If you can't guess, then it's 0 points.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, go.
How much time is left?
10 seconds. 2,
Okay.
1, and...
This is gonna be horrible. I don't. Yeah. Okay. You're not gonna guess this.
Alright.
Okay.
First guess, is it a forest?
No.
Is it a dinosaur?
No. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, it's fine. What was it?
The Pikachu. Okay. I tried to get the eyes and like.
Yeah.
I don't know what shape I wanted, but like I thought the most important thing was the tail, but I couldn't get that right correctly because it looks like a tree now.
So I'll go next. Yeah. So this is my word.
3, 2, 1, start.
I'm done. Oh. Okay, you have 2 guesses.
Is it a bike?
It is.
Okay. That was actually pretty easy.
Okay, so you get 2 points.
Yeah.
I have 0 points.
I feel. Okay, I feel like this is unfair for you because I'm horrible at drawing.
It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. I mean, now people can see
That's
my
actually pretty good
great
drawing.
artistic skills.
Okay. I think I have this. Okay, you can look.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You can keep this when you're done if you want it, or when you sleep at home.
Okay.
All right.
I forgot where it was. Okay. I'm just gonna. Wait, this is gonna go so. I'm so sad. This did not go as planned. Okay.
Does it ever?
I guess not.
I
Yeah,
feel like I
no.
know what it is.
This is my drawing.
Okay, there's 2 things. To me, I think it's either or.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's a football.
No,
It's not the balloon, the football balloon.
it is not a football balloon. I'm sorry.
Okay, so then it's for sure a tortoise.
It's a turtle.
Yay! Okay, I got a point.
Actually, you actually got
I
it.
did
I
something.
don't know how you got it.
Okay, I'm gonna pick another one. Don't look.
Yeah.
This is looking very grim for me. I still don't have any points.
I don't feel like this is
I'm
fair at
very
all.
bad.
I don't think it's your guessing. I think it's my drawing.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
this is the word. Okay, give me a countdown, Dimitri.
3, 2, 1, start.
Ah, I think it's too big. I can't see.
I got it. Wow.
Okay.
It's not as good as I envisioned it.
I feel like I know what it is, maybe.
Really?
But is it a guitar?
Yeah, it is. Damn, you're good at this. It's not actually good. I don't know how you guessed that. So you deserve your points. You deserve your points. Alright, so as you guys can see on the screen right now, I lost again. I'm just a little bit salty, but not too salty, I think. It was fun, right? Did you have fun?
That was fun.
Awesome. So just before I let you go, there's a couple things I wanted to ask you. So last night I watched your stream with Pay that you did at the Meltdown, and you guys were kind of joking around. You were saying loses improve, loses improve. Of course you were saying it as a joke, but I'm wondering, is there some truth to that for you? Do you think loses improve?
Of course, loses improve. If you don't lose, it's really hard to find the mistakes, and like just no mistakes, you're the best anyways, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, loses definitely improve. But we were more saying it as a joke because like our setup was really like awkward to play at.
Yeah.
Like our monitors were like 60 hertz, and like when you play FPS, like you need 144 at least to actually properly perform.
Yeah.
So yeah, losers improve.
Okay, good. So you heard it here, guys. Losers improve. So don't be too sad when you're losing. I was also wondering, since you're a player who's been in a lot of different teams before, but this is your first time playing in a gaming house and meeting with everyone, so not doing online tournaments.
Yeah.
How does that compare to what you're doing now? What are your thoughts on that?
I like it more now because you can actually feel the pressure and you feel like you go there to practice and it feels like you're doing something every day.
Yeah.
Instead where you're at home, you just play and then you do like not really that determined maybe.
Yeah.
It's a lot, I don't know. It's more fun anyways, I think, and it's a lot more serious.
Do you think it's harder because now, like you have to do it non-stop, right? Because you're always with your team. So if you just want to get time for yourself, time to relax, or just stay away from gaming maybe for a day or two, do you get to do that, or?
No, we don't really have any time off. There's always like practice to do and like watch to review and stuff like that. So not really, but I really enjoyed this lifestyle, and that's why I actually came because I wanted to do it.
Okay, awesome. And the last question I'm going to ask you is the same that I asked Spirit last week.
Okay.
What's the story behind your gamer tag? So Zapri, why did you pick Zapri?
Okay, so I played WoW. There's a ability called Zap. I thought it sounded cool, so I changed a few letters to not like copy it completely. So like it was Zap, and then like something I wanted to add something cool behind it, and I thought Prey was cool sounding too, and they smashed together, and that's how I got it.
That's pretty cool. I mean, some people have big stories. Sometimes it's just something that sounds really nice. Have you been using since WoW? So how long ago have you been using this?
It's since Cataclysm in WoW. I don't know when Cataclysm was, but it must be like 6 or 8, 7 years maybe now.
Couple years. So is it the only gamer tag you've ever used?
No, I've been through a lot of like gamer tags, but it's been so long ago I can't even remember them now.
So, but you've stuck with Zapri for the last 6, 7 years.
Yeah, yes.
Awesome. All right, guys, so that's all the time that we had for today. I really want to thank you, Nikolai, for coming and doing this challenge with me.
Yeah, it was fun.
I lost again, but it's fine. I think maybe I can win next week. And for everyone at home, if you want to follow Zapri on Twitter, you can do so at Zapri_Overwatch. And for the rest, we will see you guys next week with a new challenge. Bye. So that was the overtime segment for this week with Zapri. I mean, I lost, so I'm 0-2 right now, but I gotta say I think my drawing skills were better, and Nikolai agreed, so I'm not too salty about it, but there's gonna be some more next week, so we'll see who wins that. Now we're gonna get talking about next week's match. We are going to be facing XL2 Academy, so New York Excelsior's Academy team. The roster is the following: Mangachu and Nene as DPS, Midnight and Cloneman16 as Flex and Tank, and then Adam and Goliath as support. Now, just to talk about them a little bit more, they won 3-2 against Toronto Esports in week 1, and then on Sunday they lost 1-3 to the Gladiators Legion, again, as we said earlier. Their strength mainly lies within their DPS, right? So they have Mangachu that you guys probably know from Team Canada. He was also previously on Tempo Storm. And Nene, if you've watched Apex, he used to play for Luxury Watch Red. So, I mean, we see some very strong DPS here. I'm just wondering, what are you guys' predictions on this match for next week? I'll start with Dimi. Be honest.
I mean, it's really difficult to really predict these matches, but unless the Grizzlies embrace the Diva Master Race and really use that pick and utilize it to perfection, I kind of see a 4-0 coming for XL. I'm sorry.
Okay, but if they embrace the Diva Master Race,
closer series, 3-1.
Okay, all right. Is that?
Okay. My predictions for next week's game is also a 4-0 for Excel, but I am hopeful for really close, like hardly fought fights. I think that the improvement that the Grizzlies showed this week can like show us that they can improve, and with that, I think that even if they lose, they'll be able to show them that what they're capable of, and not get rolled.
So, okay, maybe one last question because I'm curious. Dimi, if you were on the Grizzlies right now and you were going to be facing XL2 Academy, would you try and cheese strat or you'd try to go as meta or as comfort as possible?
I mean, XL also is probably one of the better teams in this league, and if you're trying to gauge your strength, then you could go straight up and really try and take it to them. But if you're kind of feeling wacky, if you really want to try and get that win, might as well go for the cheese. There's nothing stopping you from trying that 5-tank push on one time. So
Awesome. So just a quick reminder, guys, that next week the Group A games are going to be on Wednesday. So we will be broadcasting the recall on Saturday evening at 9 p.m. We're going to close this out here now. Thank you guys so much for coming on the panel. I'm really happy that you guys were able to make it. If you want to follow Isa and Dimi, you can follow their socials down here. And then we are going to be leaving you guys with an exclusive. So we have a trailer, about a minute trailer of the Court Cutters documentary series for the Grizzlies that was filmed right here in Montreal. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay here for the trailer. See you next week.
I'd like to be in the Overwatch League right now. It's definitely a big dream of mine.
My goal as of now is Overwatch League, and I will make it no matter what.
My dream is pretty much what I'm doing right now, so I'm really happy.
In the long term, it's basically just, it's really important for me to do what you love for a living.
I was super excited when it came out. I really wanted to get into the beta, and like it's, I don't know, the gameplay is just so much fun. It's an open space, so like you're really focused when you get there, because you know this is where you play and this is where you perform.
Like, we're gonna go into every game trying to win.
It is the future, and instead of just like pushing it away, let's just embrace it and help people getting educated about what is esports.
You just gotta keep moving forward.